The next engine is an boxset K&B 6.5cc model 4011. The box is somehow a little bleached, and I think it may have resided in a shop window for some time, and some smaller box was sitting up here, sun came from here, and yes, it's not in the perfect condition like the OS-10 FSR was, but still really decent. It's still a new engine. You can still get this model, by the way, newly produced from Mikoa, and I'm not quite sure if this is an original K&B or was produced after they were bought by Mikoa. Here is a return letter though, and this address isn't the one on the Mikoa website. And they said they moved it from Northern California to Southern California, so maybe it isn't original K&B, but that's just guessing. There isn't any manual or something like that left, besides some stickers here. Come. But I'm not sure if it ever came with one. If you look, this engine was surely taken out a few times off the box and handled. You can see that by, if you take it out. Here's some scuffing, those are worn. And maybe it was a shop's demo piece, so if someone would look at the motor, they gave him that one, and then if he bought one, he got a sealed one, so the demo piece. Yes, it comes with a glow plug, and if I'm ever going to run this, I will use this one. Now let's have a quick look inside. Yeah, that's way too pristine to have been ever run just a moment. That's a new engine. It also has a Dykes or L-ring, which you can see it goes up to the piston, to the top. And that's because it sits in the groove, it's an L shape, and it's open to the combustion chamber. The thought behind this design is that the ring doesn't have any spring pressure, just a little bit that it touches the cylinder wall, but it doesn't press against it. And only the combustion pressure gets between the ring and the piston and pushes it out, and only then it seals really well. And the idea is to reduce friction losses when there isn't any combustion, and the downside is it has next to no compression if you turn it slowly. So people who try the engine by turning don't feel any compression and may think it's one if they don't know about this fact. And it can also mean that you need an electric starter to start it, because you aren't just fast enough if you are hand starting it. But that's not a must. Many of them start readily by hand. If you look into the exhaust slot, you can also see this L-ring, Dykes-Ring, which goes all the way to the top. And there are some scratches on the piston skirt. And I think they came from people handling it. If it was really a shop demo, everyone was turning it through, and that does somewhere, but it shouldn't be a problem. The piston ring is much harder. It's also not pressed against the liner. The liner looks fine also. And those scratches are purely cosmetical. So now let's close it up before it grows any additional parts. If you have too many engine parts lying around, that's not a good thing. You don't want it to happen. Now a little side note. If you ever disassemble and assemble an engine, every time you have a cylinder head or this back cover, you never go and tighten the screws going around. The problem is you tighten it on one side, the other side will come up, so it will be a little tilted, and then you try to force it down and bend it, and then your engine is basically ruined. So what you want to do is yes, my fingers are in the way, I know. You just tighten them. No, you don't tighten them at all. You screw them in so that they are just touch. Apply no torque at all to them. And then you start at one screw. And tighten it a little. Then you take the opposite screw, tighten it a little. Then you go here, the opposite one again, opposite one again, opposite one again. And you do that multiple times. You never tighten them in one go. And you don't do that too. That ruins the screw heads if you do it too often. I'm just clumsy on camera. So, that head should be tight again. And as I said, you feel next to no compression while turning it. And that's something I have never seen before. The prop nut threads aren't on the crankshaft itself, but there is a bolt screwed into the crankshaft which holds it. I think that may be a nice idea, and I think why they have done it is if you crash, often the crankshaft gets bent, and in this thin threaded portion, or it even breaks off. So, and if they made this thing here, this bolt, significantly softer than the crankshaft itself, which they can get away with because there are no bearings, they have to run on it, and it's enough the inlet, a rotary valve here and so on, and it's strong enough. It will absorb the impact. I'm not going to try it, at least not willingly. Nothing more to report about this engine, I think, since it's not as pristine as the 10 FSR was. I think this engine will be run in a future video, surely. The last engine I'm going to show in this video is an OS-MAX H40. So the problem with this model, the OS-MAX H40, is there were a lot of models called like that. I think it were at least 5 or something. I found infos about 3 of them, and they all were completely different engines. So what I think I have here is the last one from 1973. From my information, it's also cross-flow scavenged 6.5. The head isn't really tight, since I already had it open, and since I already knew I wanted to show that again, I didn't tighten it all the way. For the big reveal, yes, you see that's pristine. There is just a little residue there, but yes, I think that's just because it's so old. The original preservation oil got hard, and yes, it hasn't been run. So it's a new engine. You can also look inside the cylinder head. It's perfectly clean. The gasket is in perfect condition. Unfortunately, it has some flaws. The problem is, what I think what happened is, this exhaust tension band is too long. It's a too big size. It doesn't belong to this engine. I think it may came from a 50 or 60 engine, and someone was trying to use it anyway. So when he tried to tension it like that, yes, it's tension, this went all the way here and cracked this muffler flange, because it's originally never be supposed much further than to go much further than that. So that's a little unfortunate, but I really can't blame the seller. It was declared like that, so yes, I got what I bought. That's fine. I am not the kind of person who buys flawed stuff because it's cheap and he wants it cheap and then complains about it. I knew what I bought, I was fine with that, it was a fine deal, so everything is fine. Since the muffler and tension band were damaged anyway, I didn't have any fear to modify it further. So I just drilled a hole in the tension band here, so that the length is now the correct one. If I have tried it, I will remove that old hole here and nobody will ever notice. And yes, I'm fine with that. I have another of these engines in parts, which I will repair too, but I'm still waiting for some bearings and so on. Another problem is, you see that fine line? That plastic throttle arm is cracked. That's also the case in my other engine I just mentioned, and I don't think that's any indication of use. I just think it's deteriorated old plastic. This engine is nearly 50 years old and old plastic shrinks, it dries out and it cracks. It's a new engine. The muffler isn't, in my opinion, because that screw isn't original. And yes, that for today.